Production. With the commish, Nate.
All right, welcome everybody to Press Pass Live number 223. It's hard to believe 223 episodes of this show, but we are Right back at it. There's been a hell of a lot of stuff that has happened this past week, so we got a lot to talk about. We got a room full of guys. Let me go ahead and welcome the crew in. I'm going to save the best for last because he is going to be on our hot seat. But let me welcome in Mr. Wynn and Mr. Trey. Gentlemen, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it is the proverbial opener for all shows. How you doing tonight?
You want to go first one?
I'm okay as long as we don't actually play Madden during this interlude.
And I'm doing pitch perfectly fine up north.
Well, there you go. You were playing a little NHL, I think you were saying. So the NHL season, if I'm not mistaken, is just started, correct?
Technically, the full release for everybody came out on Friday, so yes.
I mean the real NHL season though, like that just
Yes.
started.
That too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the full season. Most teams have played their first or second games by now. Some teams are 3 games in. It's a little awkward, but yeah, the NHL is officially kicked off.
Well, there we go. Well, it
and
is
my
full
Blackhawks are
NHL
sucking.
season here. I know I don't know jack squat about hockey, or at least I know just enough to get myself in trouble. But I do like watching the new team just because I think they got a cool logo and some cool colors. And I know Wynn has kind of got me into kind of checking them out a little bit. So I also like the Vegas team. I think they've got some neat stuff over there. A close friend of mine is a big Vegas fan. I don't care. Is it the King? It's not the Kings. Who is it? What's their name?
Golden Knights.
Golden Knights.
The Golden Knights.
And the Seattle Kraken.
There's something about professional teams that have 2 names in their name that just feels awkward. Like it's got to be short and sweet. It's got to be the Rangers. It's got to be the Oilers. But the Golden Knights, it just doesn't roll off the tongue like the rest of them. All right, enough hockey talk. I think for all of us, we're here to open up with a hot seat, and we have a hell of a guest here tonight. One who's been busting his tail with these snapshots. I see you, Brady. Let me welcome in the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, your OMFL News host, Coach Brady. How you doing tonight, bud?
Hey, what's good, everybody, man?
Welcome to the OMFL hot seat. I'm glad that you're here tonight. Tonight's going to be a fun one. We're going to throw you right on the coals. Your Jaguars, a hell of a good season. What has been the thing that you've learned the most about your team early in season 97?
Well, the first thing that I've noticed about my team is with the craziest move of my tenure as a Jaguars coach, shipping out Henderson for O-line actually wasn't that bad of an idea after all, because I was able to move Campbell in his spot, and thank God for a couple scenarios here or there, but I've been able to kind of get Campbell up to speed pretty quickly, and we haven't skipped a beat since the departure of Henderson. And then now with slider wise, with the career clock kind of moving into DFM, with that kind of being nipped in the bud, so to speak, I don't have to worry about a center that I just traded for deciding to leave, because that was what ended up happening after trading with the money. Literally, I got a center that was like, "Hey, I'm out," and I was like, "Damn." But I was able to turn some wins around and get him out of the get him off the ledge, so to speak. So it's been fun.
Coach, talk about Trevor Lawrence. How's his progression development been so far?
Well, he's in a tough spot. He's got a user that is not quarterback heavy, not pass heavy. Everybody knows with the 3 running backs that I have, I'm running the damn ball. You just have to stop it first, and then secondly, if I can get someone to bite, of course, he gets his passes in, but we still missing a couple weapons here or there to really turn the corner, to be a dual threat team. But that's one thing that I gotta align myself with a mentor that's real pass heavy, because if I can understand the pass game more, Trevor Lawrence will have a 3,000 passing season, but under me and the mindset that I'm in, he may get to 2,500, maybe. But I mean, he's still, a solid player. I just don't think he's gonna grow into the superstar that he needs with anyone else. So
Let's talk about that three-headed monster. You kind of wavered a little bit on bringing Ben Morris over. First question out the back, what was kind of the tipping point to decide, I got to bring BMO over?
I wasn't sure, what the board was going to do, if they were going to allow us to use her or if they were going to, cut us off completely. So I'm happy and thankful that they allow us once every 3 plays, but I'm still in the mindset of like, let us be free. But speaking of the running backs though, it was just a smart choice to bring him over. Depending on what the speed threshold is in the post CFM, man, sky's the limit for BMO, because he's a receiving back with crazy speed, crazy juke ability, and that's just going to go hand in hand with ETN, and then of course my power man is Robinson. So yeah.
Talk about ETN. How has his role changed on your team before you decided to bring BMO, and now after you've decided to bring BMO over?
Man, that's a good question, because now he's being used as the third option at halfback. So he gets some time on the field, but the coolest thing that I like about ETN though is he might get 6 touches, but he's gonna have close to 70 yards. And that's the one thing that I think catches teams off guard is, honestly, I have 3 running backs that are halfback ones on most any other team. So with that, it's almost like you don't lose a step at the running game. It's just trying to figure out the threshold, get used to it, understand how you can work within it, and just pick your spots. So
You talked about weapons for the offense. Where is kind of the biggest need that you think we really need somebody to step up in this team and give us some more weapons?
that'll be, man, if I'm going weapon wise, I want to say just a stout O-line. Because if you think about it, if you look at my roster, and I'll pull it up here. If you look at my roster at the wide receiver position, I have 7 wideouts on my team, and of the 7, only 3 of them are 89 speed or lower. Everybody else is 92 speed or faster. But then you got to look at their catch. The worst receiver on my team, catching wise, is Agnew. You know what I mean? Everybody else is 80 catch or better. So skill wise, I guess you could say it'd be nice to have a Tyreek Hill or someone blazing fast like that, but that's just not my style of play. I don't want to force feed a wide receiver 10 times to 200 plus yards. That just drives me fucking insane.
Let's talk about that for a minute, Coach. Like, you have never been one to shy away from speaking your mind. what is the deal with receivers? Like, this seems to be something that continues to come up in chat. It comes up in OMFL news. It comes up in conversation. Give me more. Tell me more about a receiver doing his job and making the defense's job easier because you know he's going to go ahead and force feed that guy. Why is that such a speed bump for you?
I mean, let me go to my schedule. I'll go to my schedule just to kind of explain. I want to say there may have been one or two games where player-wise, even I have thrown to a certain target, like my blowout win. I want to say, was it a blowout win? My blowout win over Texans in the beginning of the year. We scored 48 points. Even in that game, receiving wise, I think I had somebody that was just 50 yards receiving. To me, I don't feel like I need to go to my fastest person all the time to beat you. Like, if this is supposed to be a chess match and I'm supposed to pick you apart all game long, like, that's the whole premise of mixing it up. When you go back and you look at that win, the most receptions by one of my receivers was 3. Granted, he wasn't over 100 yards. Now, there's other games on my schedule. Oh, man. Trying to think of where we may have had somebody that maybe got over. But to me, it's just, I don't feel like, one receiver should have, 10 catches, 240. Or if you're looking at stat leaders, somebody in the stat column, 27 catches, 900 yards. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, come on, man. Like, are you just literally running streaks the whole time because your dude is a 97 speed?
You're a defensive guy. Wouldn't you agree that it should make your job? Like, I want a guy to try to force feed one receiver all game. It makes my job so much easier. I don't have to cover the whole field. I can call coverages to one side. I can roll players to one side. Isn't it easier for the defense if somebody's like, I'm just going to force feed this one player, aka, old school Colin?
So in how do I want to say this? So per the rules initially, we were allowed to offensive players were allowed to use or catch. They were able to use the button and catch, right?
Nah. You mean this Madden?
Yeah, like this Madden. Like you were allowed to press a button.
Originally, no, but then we opened it up because receivers don't do anything.
Right, exactly. So we opened it up, right? So now you got people throwing it to one target 10, 15 times, over 200 yards receiving. But the downside to that is the defender is stuck. Like, the defender can't switch to combat that. So, yeah, you can call all the coverages you want, but if someone is allowed to press the buttons now, that is basically you're playing someone and they're going against the CPU every single time. That's the one thing when it comes to, a no-switch league, which, is an idea that I tossed out there anyway. But when it comes to a no-switch league, especially when you open up that, hey, receivers are dropping passes, we're going to continuously throw to this one guy. Unless you are already manning that person, of course, you have an opportunity then. But I can't switch and click, I can't hit my button to try to defend it. I can only just hope my CPU defends it for me. And in most cases on fast receivers, that's not the case. And that's why a lot of the guys, they use that in a way as an advantage, because now that it's back to no switch, you now have to, fall in line and just hope your boy can toe tap on the sideline the whole 9. Now you'll probably start to see certain certain routes not called as much. But I don't know, man. To me, if the league is all about mixing it up, by all means, buddy, mix it up. That
Yeah,
means
Coach, I don't
if
know that
you
you and I are ever going to agree on this one. A receiver doing what a receiver is supposed to do is like what else do you have a receiver for? To run block? Like I think it makes my job easier. I want somebody to force feed one receiver all game. It makes it so much easier to game plan against. I don't agree that button pushing puts you at a disadvantage as a defense. You can play any player on the field. He can't. He can just play the quarterback, and we only put the button push in because the receivers don't react. But that doesn't matter. We took it back anyway, and this is about you and your team. I just thought that was some interesting conversations, which there were some interesting things about your schedule, right? You open up with a big win against the Texans, big win against the Broncos that started the down spiral of that guy quitting us. But then you played one of the big boys, and he kind of put it to you, 31-20 against the Cardinals. You bounced right back against a good victory, but a tight victory against the Bengals, a tight loss against the Titans, a tight victory against the Dolphins. But then something happened. You go on your bye week, you come out, you're on a 4-game winning streak, and you're putting it to them. 38-21 over the Seahawks, massive win there. 30-23 doesn't really count against the CPU Bills, but you still put up 30 points there. And then a 35-32 victory over the Colts, which I will say, because he's on here, and we got to start putting a bow on this show, because you and I have already went way over our 5 minutes, but he made it sound like you completely dismantled him. And then I seen the score, and it was a 3-point victory, and I was like, wait, what? That's not what I expected the score to be. But your team has definitely started to change something since your bye week. What has changed about your team?
It's the biggest thing that's changed is my game planning, and my focus. The biggest thing with me this cycle is I got to get out of the mindset of always just playing the game just to play, instead of, actually really, really coming out and trying to kick someone's ass. In most Maddens, I come out to win, but it's not a big deal. Like this cycle, like I haven't been to an OMFL Bowl, haven't even made it most times out of the first round of the playoffs. And quite frankly, drives me insane. If you're gonna compete, you want to compete at the high level, and losing to D-Money was an eye opener, because it was like, I got beat by 11 points, but I was like, it was mistakes I made that led to that loss. So what can I do to change it? And that's my focus moving forward. That's just like I made countless mistakes versus the Colts versus win last night. Kick myself in the ass because there's no reason why he should have had 32 points. Sorry, Win.
No, I 100% agree. I have been holding back, so yeah.
You'll get your
that
time,
game should
Win.
not have been 35-32, and it wasn't 35-32. I don't care what the final score said. I'm stopping.
Oh my goodness, here we go again. Okay, Coach Brady, what are the realistic expectations of this team in season 97?
And this goes for anybody in the AFC. There's no D-Money. There's no Mo. There's there's no mega Super Bowl winner remaining on this side. Yes, there are contenders all through the AFC, but the AFC is flipping wide open. Someone's got to step out. Someone's got to make a run, and I'm going to throw my name in the hat, but we got to fix some things eternally first before we're going to be able to take that step. But I will say this: thank you, Nate, for beating the Titans.
You're welcome. You tricked me into some things, and that game also was way closer than I thought it should be. Also, one of the funnest games I've had. Anyway, this is about you and about your team, Coach. When you no matter how the season plays out for you, What is the next step with a young team, a young offense, rebuilding the offensive line, young quarterback, a stable of running backs? What is that next step that you have to build on that you can only do so much of it right here in season?
Oh man, O-line. It's, making sure I put my O-line in a position to where they can grow. And then as far as like drafting is, now that we have the scouting update, I have a feeling like once I can build a true offensive line, man, sky's the limit.
All right, Coach. Tell me the part of this team, and then we're going to get to some word association way over our 5 minutes. But where is the part of this team that needs to step up the most for you to finish the season the way you want to?
My quarterback play has to be key. It's got to be key. It's got to be consistent. I'm not too worried about my running game. O-line has got to keep the pressure off. I mean, thanks to EA, they've already helped with maintaining some pass rush. And then my defense, they just got to, they just got to get stops, minimize third down conversions, and, force teams to kick field goals instead of score touchdowns.
All right, Coach, every show for a hot seat, we like to end with some word association. Tell me the first word or phrase that pops in your head whenever you hear things like the AFC South.
Home.
The AFC.
Oh, man. Weak link.
OMFL playoffs.
A place where I disappoint.
OMFL bowl.
I never made one.
Running backs.
Halfback you.
Offense or defense?
Defense.
Man defense, zone defense, or blitz?
I'm going to say zone.
High scoring game or low scoring game?
Always a low scoring. Data dreams that way.
Favorite position to play on defense?
Linebacker. All hail Kratos.
And I'm going to throw in another one. OMFL Hall of Fame.
Oh. Kratos, man.
That's what I figured it would be. And last one, the OMFL.
Home.
Coach Brady, you were off the OMFL hot seat. It was the world's slowest OMFL hot seat, but you are never short for words. You always add plenty to the league. We missed the OMFL news, but we get it. Life happens. Congratulations on one of your real life seasons ending tonight. And we can't wait to have you back. Feel free to hang out if you want. But
yes,
we appreciate you being on the hot seat, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm still here, though.
All right, there we go. Let's I hit the wrong button. Don't do it. It's going to do it. It didn't. Yes. Okay. Maybe I didn't hit the wrong button. Okay. Let's get over here. That's not what I want. We're going to get over here. Okay. Bringing back in Win. Bringing back in Trey. Why is my camera off? Okay. I'll fix that later. Don't worry about it. We're bringing back in Trey. We're bringing back in Win. Guys, let's talk about some of the things that Brady brought up. First, it sounds like Win is burning a hole in his own face. He's got a lot to say. So let's go ahead and just open the mic up for Win.
Well, I know Brady had a little bit of a rant. He kept mentioning some numbers that caught my eyes and ears. He kept saying 10 receptions and 200 plus yards, and he kept mentioning speed wide receivers. I'd like to point out for the record that my boy Deion Kane, who is the person who had 10 receptions for 241 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game, has a blazing 91 speed. He is actually, I believe, the second maybe fastest wide receiver on my roster. I have a 92 and a 94. a couple of 91s, so he is definitely not a speed demon. He just got some favorable matchups and got lucky on one jump ball that was in one-on-one coverage, and I busted it for a long touchdown that was basically the one that put me, I believe, within 3. So I told everybody whenever the season started, Deion Kane was my boy. He is a sneaky good wide receiver, and I believe this game was kind of his coming out party to show that, hey, he's pretty good. If he had a half decent user behind him, he'd be even better. But unfortunately, he's got me as his user, and he still looks good. So, and secondly, that game was not close. I don't care what the final score was. I put up 22 points in the final quarter with Matt Ryan because I had to, and essentially made it look like it was way closer than it was. He had me 35-10 pretty much early fourth quarter. So the final score is not indicative of how close, quote unquote, the game was. Brady blew the doors off of me, and I pretty much the last like 5 weeks has been very frustrating defensively because no pass rush, no coverage, and no tackling. So basically, anything you would consider defense is not being done right now in Indy. And if we can't stop anybody, we're not going to outscore anybody. So it's hugely frustrating for me right now because can't stop anybody, can't do anything, and yeah, I'm really ready for this season to end. Honestly, I'm ready for my bye week. So yeah, that's about it.
Well, I actually didn't know those shots were across your bow. I actually thought those were aimed at other people over in the AFC.
Oh yeah, those were actually aimed at Ruggs in general.
The Ruggs. I also heard the name Elijah Moore out there. I have no problem if your receiver is open and you aren't running the same routes and the same plays and you're hitting dudes. Then go do it. Go do you. Go set some records. But that does raise a quick question. Win, is there a quarterback controversy in Indy now?
Oh no, the Jacob Eason is still our guy. He just, for one, the first interception, he threw 3 interceptions on the day. The first interception he threw was actually a lag INT where I believe it was either Paris Campbell or Pittman, one or the other, was running a curl route. And when he hit the curl, I had a timing route where I was hitting square, and I hit square, and nothing happened. And then like a second later, he threw the ball, but by then it was way too late because his cornerback was like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna go pick that off now," and basically took a pick six and made it 14-0. So I hate to use lag as an excuse, but lag cost me 7 points. And basically, he threw another red zone INT. And I believe the third INT was just kind of one of those, I'm just going to throw it up. It's a chuck and pray situation. And on the third one, I pretty much decided, you know what, sit the kid down. He's not going to win this game. The game was already out of hand at that point anyway. So I brought in the $17 million backup quarterback, Matty Ice, to basically I just wanted to just have a clean slate, clean quarterback, just kind of go through progressions, see what I could do. And Matt Ryan, actually, I believe he went 10 for his first 10. And then I think he missed 1 or 2 in a row, and then he hit 2 more. He was loving Deion Kane. I believe Deion Kane got most of his receptions once Matty Ice got in the game. But no, Jacob Eason is still our guy. Matty Ice is a nice backup option, and Carson Wentz is enjoying holding a clipboard there, waiting for me to cut him at the end of the season. So,
Trey, let's bring you in here before you fall asleep over in Canada. It's cold over there. It's hard to stay awake.
It's not cold yet.
Where do you fall on this wide receiver debate that has been struck tonight?
I agree with you. If you want to focus one guy, go right ahead. I'll lock him down. I got Doug Glenn waiting to hit somebody.
Ooh, he looks for ways to plug in Doug Glenn. Well, guys,
Of course I do.
let's talk about the NFC. Brady brought it up. It's going to be on the show. He seen a sneak peek of the agenda, so maybe it was subconsciously in the back of his head. But really and truly, Brady pointed out what I was going to bring up, and that is a lot of the powerhouses have moved over to the the NFC, and the AFC no longer has a Dwayne. Dawson has retired. Penguins has left. Bloop has retired. A lot of the big powerhouses have left the AFC and now sit in the NFC, and it is going to be survival of the fittest. One of the things I think I like the most, though, is that everyone has lost a game. It's week 9 or week 10, I should say, and there are no undefeated teams. That is a good thing to see. I hated seeing these freaking 16-0 teams season after season after season for all of like Madden 19, 20, 21. There was always some undefeated teams. I just hated seeing that. And so it's good to see that there is at least some sense of parity. I think you're going to see even more of that once we get to the new CFM with the adjusted sliders a little bit more. They're not going to be super drastically different, but there's definitely going to be some changes. But let's talk about the NFC. Trey, you play in the NFC. You are the top dog right now, sitting here at 8-1, 297 points for your team, 188 against your team, a streak of 3. When you look at the power in the NFC, what are some of the things that come to mind?
It's going after Madden 20. We saw D-Wayne dominate the East. We saw D-Money dominate the West. We saw me come into the North and essentially take control of it. There was always the question of who was going to be the top dog with the South, with you, Nate, Kobe, Big Hurt, and there was always the rotating pace with the Panthers, Maniac being there for the majority of it, but they were getting a new user this go round. So it was going to be who's coming out of the South to increase the competition level. And now Hurt has gone. Penguins has stepped across from the Chiefs to the Buccaneers. It's just a gong show like of power, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to make it to the playoffs and then who's going to survive long enough to get to the OMFL Bowl.
What's up, Mo? It's good to see you, buddy. Lots of love from my guy, Mo. If you're not following Mo on YouTube right now and Lee Crawler and his podcast, stop what you're doing. Go do that. Well, maybe don't leave the podcast just yet, but after the podcast, go do that. Trey, as a team that's at the top of this conference and you see kind of the murder's row, so to speak, what do you think it's going to take to see one of these teams survive? Like, do you think it will be the best team that survives, or will it be just kind of the team who happens to win the NFC Championship game because it can kind of go to anybody?
It's at the rate we're going, it's going to be a bloodbath, and whoever finds what they need and when they need it is going to walk all over somebody.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to the Falcons. I think he's playing really good football. Look, your Lions and that defense is playing great. I think both of you are going to be really interesting, though, when we get over there is like, do your quarterbacks continue to play as good as they're playing right now? I know Franks has got a lot of the heat early on in the season, but I know there's at least one person, I would probably say 2 on this podcast that think that your quarterback is doing even worse things to the league at a murderously low overall for that guy. But then you have, the Giants who've played just solid football from start to finish. You got the Cowboys who, he's been kind of hit and miss and not his most consistent self, but he's still at the tippy top of this division. One of the best rosters right out of the box. D-Money has quietly put together a 7-2 record. You got the Panthers still doing his thing. The Seahawks, they had a little bit of a stub their toe against the Jaguars. He's still right there. Maniac. I know Maniac is Maniac, but he is still going to win football games, and he's going to be right there at the end. So there's a lot of guys here that are really going to be battling it out. What happens with injuries? What happens with fatigue as we get late in the season? Who is the team that hits that hot streak at the right time? Are we seeing the Lions burn out early? Are we seeing the Falcons burn out early? are the Cardinals going to just steady the race and really be just the guy at the end of this season? When, as a guy sitting in the AFC and seeing what's happening over here in the NFC, you've been around now for half of a season, you kind of know who's who. What are some of the things that you think when it comes to the power that sits over here in the NFC?
Looking at your list that you have up on YouTube right now, I think the Falcons will fade eventually. The Lions will be there. I think the Giants and Pepper will be there. I think I know D Money's going to be there. I know D Wayne's going to be there. The new Panthers owner is intriguing, but we'll see how the new sliders treat him, especially if he gets any sort of pass rush. I know from our experience doing some testing with you as the Panthers, you know that O-line is not exactly the greatest. They kind of blow over in a stiff breeze, at least with the right settings and setup. Bill's going to be there. There are a ton of users that are going to be there at the end. There's going to be a lot of good owners in the NFC that are going to be watching the playoffs potentially with maybe even 10, maybe even 11 wins sitting out, because it's so not necessarily top heavy per se, but there's just so much talent stacked at the top end, and there's only room for 7. So you're going to see teams in the NFC, I feel like, with double-digit wins easy, that are going to be really mad whenever they see that they're the 8th seed and that's the first seed that's out. I'll put it this way: I'm glad I'm not in the NFC. I mean, I would just be a doormat for these guys anyway, the way I've been playing. But definitely, I'm glad I'm not in the NFC, because I started as the Seahawks, and I would definitely not. I might be 3-6 with the Seahawks, maybe, but that's a brutal side. And then when you add in a guy like Penguins, who, if he gets his head on straight and gets the idea behind the new sliders and stuff, and gets motivated again with Tampa, look out, because that team is got some talent in Tampa. And I know they got an old Tom Brady, but if they can get a quarterback that's halfway decent to replace Brady and move on, they've got a lot of talent. They got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones. You've got a solid offensive line. You've got a defense that's fairly young. For the most part, it's old in spots, but spots you can easily replace. I wouldn't sleep on Penguins. If he gets motivated again and kind of gets a fire under him, he could easily jump right in this conversation. But just him being there is scary, I think, because if you wake that sleeping giant, it could get ugly.
Now, you bring up a really good point. He is massively unplugged right there. He missed his draft today. Haven't heard from him. So it's going to take a lot. But when he does, he's got a young, fast defense over there. And maybe it's the get through season 1, and then he'll kind of hit the internal reset button and he'll be ready to rock and roll. Before we move on, who wins the number 1 seed, in your opinion, out of the NFC?
I hate going against somebody that's on this podcast and just tell them to their face, I don't think you're getting number 1 seed, but I can't bet against D Money. I just can't. I mean, his 2 losses were at the beginning of the year, whenever he was still unplugged. I think since he's been plugged in and working at it, he's pretty much rattled off a good bit of those wins have been since he's kind of gotten back into it. And a plugged in D Money is going to be darn near impossible for anybody to beat. And not to take anything away from Trey, who I know is here in the Lions, but I think at the end, whenever the smoke clears, I think the Cardinals will be at the top, and the Lions will be right on their heels. I don't think the Lions are going anywhere, but all it's going to take is the Lions to slip up once or twice, and D Money's just going to catch him. And I think D Money takes that number 1 seed in the NFC. And as far as the 7, oh geez, I wouldn't want to predict that at all. But I think top, I can't bet against D Money, and that's not to take anything away from anybody else that we've talked about.
Trey, coming back to you, how many double-digit teams, I know you got something else, so feel free to throw that in there. How many double-digit teams do not make the playoffs? How many double-digit win teams? Finish your sentence, Nathan. How many double-digit win teams, Trey, do not make the playoffs in the NFC?
I'm expecting there's going to be 4 double-digit teams that just fall short.
Wow.
And And I've said this from the get-go when this whole season started. Week 15 is going to decide who wins the NFC North as number one seed.
Is that a
Cardinals,
Lions
Lions?
game, I assume?
It is me versus D-Money.
Okay. So week 15 is basically your OMFL bowl, basically part 1.
Yep. I've been looking forward to it. I've been told last year I didn't play a checked-in D-Money, and I took the season series between the two of us. I'm looking to see what happens this go around.
You bring up some good points there. He seems to be plugged in right now, but we'll see. You never know if D-Money is fully in or
Looking
not. It
forward
feels
to
like
playing D-Money. That's a suicidal tendency, I feel like.
I'm a
you never
crazy
know.
guy.
New
I
CFM,
can tell.
new CFM.
That's
you
must.
might-
That's must see right there. Oh my
You're right.
goodness, that's
That
must see.
sounds like a game that's going to have to be televised and bought on grownfolks.tv. Okay, let's go to the AFC. Go ahead, Trey.
I don't know anybody that's crazy enough to smash their helmet over the head before the game starts. I did that, so that tells you my craziness.
That explains so much about you. Let's go to the AFC. When we're going to go to you, and Brady, feel free to jump in because this is your division. Brady brought up this really great point. Power moves out. It is kind of like a wide open area, but right now, Nipples seems to be plugged in. He seems to have figured out his new life schedule. He's sitting here at 7-1. 243 points for his team. He stumbled 2 weeks ago, but he's back on that winning streak right now. You got the Titans, Jaguars at 7 wins, Chargers, Dolphins, Bengals at 6 wins, Raiders, which is a shocking one to me, at 5 wins, Steelers at 5 wins, Colts at 5 wins, and then you start getting into the sub 500 teams. Wide open right here. When you play in the AFC, I know you're going to crap all over yourself, but when you look at the AFC, what are some of the things that come to mind when you think about the powerhouses that sit over there?
The powerhouses that I've played, because sadly I've played Ravens, I've played Titans twice, and I've played Jaguars once. Ravens have a very good offensive line. They are a they're a fairly run-heavy setup, but they will throw the ball around with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson does look to throw more than run, so at least at this point, at least when I played him, he didn't look like he was much of a run threat. He wants to sit in the pocket and throw for the most part. But the Ravens still, you have to honor Lamar Jackson's speed, and that makes him dangerous. Titans, the Titans they just wear you out. They will hit you with Henry. They will hit you with Bernard. It's a two-headed rushing attack, but it's mainly King Henry, just bulldozing. And that defense, I will say safety Kevin Byard, who at least in the games I played the Titans, he used Byard a lot. He likes to kind of bounce around between linebacker and that back safety. Byard is a beast. He's a high-end safety for a reason, and he made a couple of plays against me in the second game we played. I had his number a little bit. I think he was still kind of getting used to the game, the first contest, and I took him to task a little bit, and then he paid me back tenfold in our meeting the second go around, because he took me behind the woodshed not once but twice, and I said, yes sir, okay, can I have another? Jaguars, another team, very very run heavy. But I will give Brady some credit. In our game we played, he did show a little bit of razzle-dazzle with the pass. Apparently my secondary is just completely oblivious to realizing that when I say spotlight a receiver, that means actually guard that receiver. DJ Chark had himself a pretty good game against me, even though once he had gotten a couple of balls, I'm like, well, I'm going to take him away. And my secondary said, no, you're not. And I said, yeah, I am. And they said, no, you're not. We're not going to guard him. So Chark had a pretty good game, went 7 for 144, I believe, in a tutty. So he does have a bit of a passing attack, but he definitely leaned on Morris and Etienne and Robinson. I actually did contain 2 of the 3 pretty well. Etienne kept getting some big plays against me, and Morris did have one big run. But otherwise, I did bottle up the running game pretty well. It doesn't look like I did. But I actually did. It's just turnovers. You throw a pick six and 3 interceptions and get down 35-10. You're not going to beat anybody, not even in Pee Wee. So I mean, it was frustrating because my defense couldn't stop a cold, and my offense couldn't do anything until I put Matt Ryan in that game. It was just frustrating. But those three I have played in particular, they're all three going to be tough outs. Colin, I know his passing game is pretty legit from talking to him. Ross is another guy I played who was a pretty tough out. I can't remember if I beat him or not, honestly. It was a close game. Ross reminds me a lot of a better version of me. He does kind of the same type of scheme I do, just better because he's 6-3 and I'm 5-5. Bengals I've yet to play, Raiders I've yet to play, and then for those of you that predicted the Colts to be vying for the division lead, I hope you're enjoying your crack because it's kicking in now. I can't stop anybody right now. The defense is horrible. We have no pass rush, we don't tackle, and we don't cover anybody. Other than that, our defense is stellar. So I believe that covers most of your powerhouse. I think ultimately the South. I still think Brady gets the South. I don't think. I think Little Cock is like maybe a couple of players away. I don't know if he's, but it'll be till the end.
Time out. No, time out. Time out. Weird. Time out.
What?
You had to go there.
Get it together. I gotta get it together over here. Hold on. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. I just need a second. It's Little Koch.
Whatever. Hey, you got to laugh out of it, didn't you?
This video is going to get demonetized real quick.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Well, you just said it, so there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne. It was great, man. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, I think my rant is done, I believe. I think the AFC South is Brady's. The Titans owner will not make it. I don't. Is that better? I think the Ravens, if they stay plugged in, I think the Ravens can take the North. The West, I feel like the Chargers are going to be the ones. I know I said in our too early predictions show, I said the Chiefs. That was with a plugged-in Penguins who is no longer there. So I think that's the Chargers division to lose at this point. And then in the East, oh man, it's a 3-team race because the Bills are just not plugged in right now. If we had a Bills owner, I think the Bills would be in for it. But I guess the Dolphins are tops right now, and they're kind of head and shoulders above everybody else right now. So I gotta lean on the Dolphins. But Brady said it. There is no real powerhouse except for team building. So if you build a good team, I mean, you could easily win the AFC as far as make it to the OMFL Bowl in the AFC. You're probably not going to like what you face in the NFC side, but you can at least say, "Hey, I made the OMFL Bowl." I don't even know what playoffs are. So,
Brady, before I go to Trey, I want to hear from you. You brought up teams that needed to step up. What are some of the teams that come to your mind when you say teams that need to step up in the AFC?
Some folks are not going to like me on this. This is targeted at anyone that has played in the AFC South. So that's going to be Massimo. That's going to be Colin. That's going to be Clyde. You gentlemen, like those are some great owners, especially when they're plugged in. I know right now the Steelers are sitting at 5-4. The Browns are at 4-6. With that defense,
I feel like they should have their own show on here, like their own topic of what has happened to the Browns.
Like I don't know what's going on with Massimo, but then again, he may not be 100% dialed in. And then who else did I say? Oh, and then the Chargers. I mean, he's 6-2. Of those guys, the names that I just said, he's 6-2, and he's got 255, points for 193, points allowed. But yeah, those three jump off the page because we used to basically kick each other's asses every season until everybody kind of moved out and I stayed in. But yeah, man. I mean, Bengals. They'll do what they need to make a run. But yeah, man, the AFC is just wide open. AFC is wide open. But one thing I will tell you that's kind of crazy when I look at points for, Browns don't have an issue on offense. They just can't stop anything. If they were wearing a mask, well, they got COVID.
Best
They just can't
offense
stop it.
points, or worst defense points.
I mean,
That's a bad
yeah,
combination.
yeah, bad combination. But I mean, I think once we get over to the post DFM, everybody gets their hands on this new set of sliders. You know, you'll start to see certain things shift. Who took over the Chiefs?
It's going to be
Shocks.
Shocks, yeah.
Docs. This season's over with. You know what I mean? I can honestly see him, if not making a run, I would say next year he'll get some things in place that he likes, and he'll be able to do some things there. But my boy Outlaw, man, once your system comes in, buddy, I think the Bills will be in some of these conversations. But still, at the end of the day, no one is like jumping off the page dominant.
Yeah.
No one. Offensively, though, the Browns. But I mean, they can't stop anything.
No.
I mean,
Trey,
they're the best offense. Yeah.
they are, and you're right. For a guy who's built some good defenses, that ain't it. Giving up the most points, and so sometimes those offensive numbers can be inflated because your defense is so bad, right, Brady? Like if you're giving up tons of points and you just have a zillion opportunities on offense, you're going to put up those points. But he's going to have to figure some things out. He started out hot early, but it's faded here in the last half.
Yep. Yeah.
Trey, as an NFC guy, who do you think wins the number one seed over here in the AFC?
Now, popular to most opinions, everybody's going to go with the Ravens by the sound of it. I disagree. So far I've played majority of my AFC schedule. I had the AFC North this year. I believe I drew Denver from the new ruling for the 17th game. I've played the Ravens, I've played the Steelers, I've played the Bengals. Disconnect issues took a 17-point fourth quarter lead away from me, and I ended up losing by 5. He's a puzzle that can easily be cracked if you don't show your full hand. That being said, I think the Titans have shown that they can put the run on somebody. The Jaguars as well. And it's really the story of, is it King Henry or King Ben?
So who gets it? I
If I had
can't
to,
let you dance around the question. That just can't happen.
I was waiting for the question to be set up. Shush. If I had to go right now, I would have to say that it's going to be Ben Morrison and the Jags. Or Ben Morrison. Why did I say Morrison? Ben Morrison and the Jags. They're on a hot streak. The Titans seem to get solved this week, and going in with the new CFM sliders that we've been discussed, it looks like the passing game may open up for that nasty Jaguars offense.
Maybe. I think everything that Brady said about his team is pretty common knowledge, and I personally think we're sleeping on the Ravens. We forget that in Madden 20, before he moved from Puerto Rico to Austin, and his life completely went haywire, as it probably would for any of us. Hell, I only went through a storm, and my life went haywire for 2 months, so can't imagine moving that far away, starting a brand new job, brand new life, and everything that comes into connection with that. That dude almost beat D-Money. Or did he beat D-Money? Now I'm talking myself out of it, but I know he was in the first bowl game of Madden 21. And I think we're sleeping on him because the rest of the time he kind of had to take it off, and he was just kind of a pseudo owner for most of the time. Look, I wanted to ask Wynn this follow-up question, but we've already we're well over an hour already, and we still have to talk new CFM and open up the mailbag before we get going. But I wanted to ask Wynn this question that he brought up. It is almost more dangerous and tougher to play defense when he doesn't run with Jackson, because you're always waiting for that one play, and it's usually the one play that you freaking play zone and on a 3rd and long, and he freaking takes off with Jackson for a 55-yard gain. Look, he's got Brown, he's got all of these playmakers, he's got the 3-headed stable of running backs over there. And so I think the Ravens have proved it, that they've shown that they can win in the playoffs, something that Brady is still trying to get over the hump with. And he's shown that he can win in big games here. And he was like right on the cusp, if I remember correctly, of beating D-Money in that bowl game. It was one of the better bowl games that we've ever had here. And so I think we're sleeping on the Ravens. All right, we're going to move to the new CFM. As Brady talked about the new sliders, you could almost hear the stank on his voice. The saltiness was rolling off of the side of his lip. He was so salty, I had to take a drink of water because my throat was parched. I'm just kidding, of course. Brady is not a big fan, and I get it. I don't like to do it, of slider changes mid-season. But we can all openly admit that pass rush is putrid. It is terrible. It is non-existent. I don't know if any of you, and feel free to chime in if you want to here, I've noticed a little bit of a trend in even these new CFM games, but even in my current CFM games, that it feels like pressure only seems to come when it's CPU from defensive tackles, and it seems to come early in the game and in bulks, and then it goes away. It feels like you'll get sacked by a defensive tackle like early on in the first quarter and a half, and then late in the game, it's like the offensive lines just dominate. You almost get no pressure at all. So anyway, we're over to the new CFM. We're going to be starting after this week of play. We got a few more things to kind of wrap up here. We're actually going to be in a week 1 after Press Pass Live is over. We're going to we'll finish up the draft tomorrow. We're going to sim to week 2, pause for 24 hours, let you guys do your scouting stuff. Pause, sim to week 6, let you guys do your scouting stuff for 24 hours. Week 8, scouting stuff to 24 hours. Week 11. So we may actually have a couple days of no play here. So maybe even, fingers crossed, we could tighten up that timeline and not have to give the full 24 hours since no one's playing. Log in and do your scouting stuff for 5 minutes so we can get a couple of these advances in one night. But to do that, we're introducing the new slider set, and you see them on the screen. These have hours and hours and hours into them. I don't know if anybody else here has played, but we're going to pause for thoughts. But I did play my preseason game. It's hard to pull what you can pull from a preseason game because the preseason game doesn't quite play the way the regular season game will do. But you can see quarterback accuracy is very low, which is not uncommon. Back before Madden 19, this 12 to 20 was a fairly common normal setting for CFM quarterback accuracies. And then I think it was Madden 20, we hit this threshold where it had to be much higher than normal, and we've always just kind of stayed there. So it's back low again. You see pass block is at 100, and you're like, well, why would you put pass block at 100? Well, it's easy to say the slider is backwards, but we actually don't know what this slider does. It doesn't describe this slider. So we found that the most pass rush comes at 100. Our current CFM was set at 0 because we had understood that at 0, it was the most pass rush. It wasn't. We bumped it up to 50 about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We're seeing more pass rush. Well, this one's all the way. It's at 100. Wide receiver catches at 80, and this is to help with no button pushes. So we took away your button pushes, but we put up the catch very, very high in order to trigger the animations for the receivers to go after the ball because this catch is so high. If the button pushes, taking them away doesn't work, and this isn't working, this number is going to go back to 50, and we'll bring back in the current rule set, which is sidelines, back of the end zone, aggressive for the contested catches, like deep balls and stuff like that. Run blocking the same, fumbles the same, pass defense reaction, all that stuff is the same. The other big change here is really going to be around speed threshold. Right now, it is sitting at 75, I think, something like that, 70, 72, somewhere in there. This one's going to come down to 58. So for you guys who have the slower, bigger receivers, the slower, bigger corners, maybe the slower safeties, the slower running backs, right? This is going to put those players back in play. You're going to have an opportunity to be able to make plays with those guys. And I think the other kind of change, which I don't think anybody's going to really notice, is roughing the passers almost all the way off. The reason this is because it causes CBU players to attack the quarterback because they know they won't get a penalty, and so it helps with the pass rush issue. So we'll pause. Has anybody played here tonight? Brady, Wynn, Trey, has any of you played a preseason game? Maybe you've played the test sliders of this. Any thoughts? I know that this slider conversation is pretty full of piss and vinegar from everybody, but I think we're all kind of ready for a change to get some pass rush in the game because it makes playing defense very difficult.
I know I haven't dabbled in the sliders yet, but from the feedback that I've overheard from just talks of it, it's got me excited. I know going into the game against Philadelphia, I think I had a total of 4 sacks through that would have been 8 weeks. And by the end of that game, I had like 10. It was ridiculous. So I don't know if there was any adjustments on Madden's side of things, but if these sliders are
There's
boost,
something with the Eagles, and I think it could be a whole topic on its own. Kevin and I had talked about it the other night. I don't know if you're here tonight, Kevin, or not. I know he's playing PUBG. There's something about that Eagles team, whether it's his team, him, because he took a year off, he's maybe holding on the ball too. I don't. There's something there, but I don't want to derail us. But there's something about his team because he is by far leading the league in sacks given up.
yeah. And like I played Clyde earlier today, and I got absolutely no pass rush except for the 2 users I did.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that I can sit back, play as Doug Glenn or one of my linebackers, and just sit back and hope that the Okwara brothers finally do what they're supposed to do.
Well, Brady will be excited to hear that. I know I can't speak. This doesn't fix the issue. So let me say that. There's no fixing the issue. This is the way Madden plays. In my opinion, what you feel now, how the game plays, is a reaction to Madden 19. Was it Madden 19 where we had the crazy pass rush and we were having 50, 60 sacks a game? Was that 19?
Madden 20.
20. I think this is a reaction to Madden 20. There was outrage about how easy the pass rush was. I loved it personally, but they nerfed it after the beta. And I think this is like, again, they create a game to fit the 99%, not us, the 1% dieharders. And so this is the game, but this does make it better. And the part I talked myself out of was that Brady will be excited to know I am not a user defensive guy, D-line guy, never have been. Way back in the day, I guess. I can user D-line very, very easy with these settings. And you don't always get back there because the running back does do a good job of stepping up and blocking, doing that kind of stuff. But if you get one-on-one with a good pass rusher and not a good, tackle, it's game over. You're going to be back there. So Wynn, Brady, any thoughts about the sliders in the new CFM?
I haven't got a chance to test them out yet. I think with Roger, I've helped him test, certain things, but
Totally.
I haven't seen the final product yet. So, yeah.
And I know I tested a little bit before. I think I tested when we were doing quarterback accuracy was a little bit higher, pass blocking was a little bit lower, and wide receiver catching was still at the 50 range because I think we were still testing whether or not we were going to do button presses or change that. So and I know this won't 100% fix it, but just to be able to see a quarterback actually maybe break a little bit of a sweat from, having somebody maybe get within 2 yards of his face, that would be ideal because right now, I mean, for me personally, and I'm speaking just as myself, I'm a terrible user, like no matter what position I play, D-line, linebacker, safety, it doesn't matter. but I can hopefully mitigate that a little bit by basically just I usually just, whatever zone I'm in or whatever man I cover, I basically just stick to that and stick in that area and don't really venture much. I don't wander like some of these elite users do, wander zones and kind of float around and try and read and react to play. I'm too stupid for that. So, the big thing for me is I have to have some kind of pass rush to force a guy to make a mistake, so I can make him pay for it. If a guy can't be forced to make a mistake and has got basically all day to read War and Peace back there in the backfield, catch the Game of Thrones 7 seasons, watch them all back to back, and then throw the touchdown pass, I mean, there's no hope for me right now. I'll tell you how I honestly feel right now with the sliders the way we currently have them, and I realize it's Madden. I feel like right now, if I don't score every possession, I'm going to lose because I can't stop anybody. Whether it's a 3-point, 7-point, I can't stop anybody. There's no 3 and outs. There's no punts for me. It's pretty much they either get a field goal or they get a touchdown. I have to match, and that's not fun for me. That's nowhere near fun for me.
Nope. I hear you loud and clear, and I totally get it. I don't know why, but sometimes this craziness of OBS doesn't always let you interact with the screen, and it kind of drives me insane. So I'm going to pull them up here on my phone, and hopefully this thing will start letting me interact here pretty soon. We had no news snapshots, but we're going to go ahead and open it up to the OMFL mailbag real quick. Kobe had a bunch of good questions here. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all of them, but first let's start with Denbrew. He says, "Hey Nate, thanks for taking my call. You the Titans. Are the Titans for real?" He says they currently hold 7-3 with all 3 of those 7 wins against the CPU, including wins over Arizona, KC, and Buffalo. Fake or for real? What do you guys think about the Tennessee Titans? They've been a hot button topic here tonight. And then when I read that stat that 3 of his 7 wins against the Cardinals and KC was against the CPU, that kind of changed my view, and that hurts my heart because I love Lost. We had such a fun game the other night. There's nothing. I get it. There's not equally nothing is frustrating and waste of time than playing a game where guys are just using AI tricks to win and game flaws to kind of gain a victory. There's equally nothing as fun as a full chess match back and forth game, and that's what we felt like we had the other night. But what do you guys think about the Titans? Are they for real?
Yes.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, no need to elaborate. They've got their stuff together now. I think they've figured out what they are, and granted, beating me is not like that's that's not a high bar, but just I feel like he's got it together to where he if he doesn't make mistakes, he's going to win a lot more times than he's going to lose.
What do you think, Brady? You played him, or I think you've played him.
Mr. Brady?
Oh, I'm here. What was the question? I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. What do you think about the Tennessee Titans? Are they real?
Man, forget him. No, I'm just playing.
Wow.
No. Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans is always going to be a thorn in my side. I'm always going to have nightmares when I think of Tennessee Titans because over the years, all the the owners that have been a part of it, that organization. So, yeah, man, like they are for real. And unfortunately, that's just one of those teams that's a hump I got to get over. I've lost to them already once this season. I got another game coming up against them here soon. Yes, I'm riding high on a win streak, but I can't look ahead to them because, hell, I got 49ers, I got Falcons, and I got the Rams. So they're the least of my worries right now. I still got 3 games coming up that, shit, I better get my shit together or we could lose 3 straight. So,
Trey, what do you think about the Tennessee Titans?
I'm going to be the opposite. I think they're pretenders right now. Looking at the schedule, if they had the win over the Cardinals, but apparently that was a CPU game. I'm not too sure. Um, the games that they've only got one win against a credible team, that being Brady. The other ones are mid to low tier teams right now. I get a couple wins against some big teams, I'd consider it. But right now, I think they're one of the teams that are probably going to fall just short of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. And like I said, it kind of hurt my heart because Koch is such a great dude and we had such a great game. But I felt like he didn't use Derrick Henry that much. He kind of got away from the run. And my team played really good run defense for once, but he kind of got away from the run, took too many chances passing the ball. And then when I read the stat that he played both Kansas City and the Cardinals CPU team, kind of puts a little chink of his armor when you're playing guys like the Jaguars and the Ravens and the Steelers, like these really good teams over in the AFC. So we'll have to see. Kobe's got a lot of questions here, and some of these are pretty deep. Kobe, I'm going to not take your first question if you're watching this or when you do watch this. Submit it again. I think it's a great question. I think it's way too early for, he asked, what are some of the player candidates for future Hall of Famers? I think it's way, we're halfway through the first season. Doug Glenn's probably going to
Nobody on the Colts.
He says, with the deadline pass, what teams do you think got the most out of their trades this season? I openly admit I cannot keep up. There's way too much action. I have way too many responsibilities on my plate. But does anybody have any feelings about, hey, this team really went out and made some moves during the trade deadline that's going to help their team?
I do. The guy that asked the question, Kobe, he goes out and gets Devontae Adams, puts him with Calvin Ridley, with Felipe Franks playing like what he's playing, with a 99 overall wide receiver on one side and a mid-80s, I believe, wide receiver on the other side with some speed, and then Cordero Patterson he's using out of the backfield. That's a team, and then you got Kyle Pitts in the mix, a 90-speed tight end. That's a lot of weapons you've got on offense, and adding a weapon of Adams' caliber at the deadline for really, honestly, didn't give up a huge amount. Yeah, he gave up a fair value, but didn't really, bank the farm for him. That's a huge get. I mean, I don't remember too many big names, and I know like Mecole Hardman went to, I believe, the Washington football team. That really hasn't made a whole lot of, song and dance because we've had ownership changes and things like that. But like the one big trade that comes to mind that we kind of, at least I remember seeing and go, wow, that he actually moved him. Okay, for what? Really? For that little? That seems like that's not much, but it was fair. I would say Devontae Adams. I mean, he's 7-1 in the NFC. He knows the NFC is going to be a dogfight. Go get you a big wide receiver dog and see how well he can play. And I mean, there's not a lot of corners that are going to be in the NFC that can cover Adams one-on-one. So you're going to have to honor and respect him. So.
Hard to argue that statement.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great point.
I beg to differ, but go ahead, Trey.
I was going to say this pretty much the same thing. Kobe went out. I'm so thankful for it and stole Devontae Adams on my division. So now I don't have to worry about that this year. And pairing that in that offense, if Felipe can maintain his momentum that he has now going into the new sliders, that's going to be a problem, and I'm looking forward to that challenge in Week 16.
Brady, what are you disagreeing with?
I think the person that, depending on how they pull the trigger in the draft, I think the person that actually got away with this is the Packers.
Oh my goodness, you got to explain that one to me, buddy.
No, dude. Okay, so yes, they got rid of their wide receiver, but you have to understand they currently have a fourth pick in the first round. Currently, they have the 17th pick in the first round. They also have Atlanta's 30th pick in the first round. Then you jump over to the second. They got 2 second-round picks. They don't have a third. They have 2 more in the fourth. Then they slot out. They get a 5th-round pick, and then they finish it off with 2 sevens. I honestly think if Pittsburgh continues to trend on the out, that could possibly be 2 picks, maybe, in the top 10. Then, depending on where Atlanta finishes, you're still going to have 3 really, really good players in the first round that they're going to pick up that could be hidden development, superstar development, whatever the case may be. I just think, yes, right now on the surface, Kobe getting Devontae Adams, yeah, don't get it twisted. That is like super amazing, especially with them having
He's 25.
Dude, I know, I get it, but Priest is about to flip this thing on its head with just the 3 picks in the first round alone is scary. And I'm not even sure if that's against FPR or not, but that's another discussion. But 3 first-round picks, that's huge.
No. Brady, is there any track record ever anywhere in Priest history that makes you have any type of hope that he will do anything with any of those picks?
Hold up. I'm willing to. You know what? I'm gonna go with this statement. Priest, if you're watching this right now, I would get with a mentor and make sure that you do not screw this up.
Coach, Priest, and then you need
like, don't screw this up. Don't screw this up, because there's no reason why he should not have the best draft that night. Shouldn't be a reason.
There's nothing that gives me hope that Priest is going to do that, but that's going to be a conversation for another time. He says, here's his third question. Has your Super Bowl favorites changed at this point of the season? I think mine slightly has, but what about you guys?
I think mine will probably have, because I think I believe it was Chiefs Cardinals, I think, and obviously Chiefs are not making it anymore. Not anything against Shocks, but taking over a team that basically kind of has gone south, and him trying to kind of get back into the swing of it with the new team. That's going to put him behind the 8 ball a little bit, and I think it's too late to catch up. But I think the Cardinals are still a good prediction. Although AFC wise, if you had a gun to my head right now, I'd actually probably say, oh man, I can't believe I'm doing this while he's on here. I'd probably say Jaguars.
Man, don't you jinx me. Don't you jinx me.
I would probably say it's not a jinx. If you're asking my honest opinion, gun to my head right now, AFC, I think the Ravens are going to falter. I think Brady has a playoff style of offense. And if he can get some defense, I think he has just as good a shot as anybody in the AFC. And without the powerhouse that is Kansas City as far as their weapons on offense and defense, I'll take somebody who can play playoff football, and I think that would be Brady. If he makes it, if he's the AFC South champ, I think he makes it all the way to the end. I don't think he beats D-Money, so there's your jinx being eliminated, Brady. But I think he can make it. I think he's legitimately can make it at this point now.
Yes, sleeping on my dude, the Ravens and nipples. Brady, I'm saving you for last. Trey, has anything changed about your Super Bowl turnout?
Yeah, I had the Chiefs going in. I knew Penguins in his game plan. Obviously, it wasn't working out. Now he's entered the war zone, the NFC. As for who I think is going to be the AFC, I think it's going to be the Jaguars, and I may be mistaken, but I think it's going to be the war of the best offensive pick versus the best defensive pick in the draft between Ben Morris and Doug Glenn.
All right, Brady. Super Bowl pick. Has anything changed for you?
No, because I know I didn't have myself in there. Me personally, my AFC title game thoughts were supposed to be Chiefs and Ravens, but with the Chiefs kind of faltering, it's changed to the Ravens and Chargers. Um, with the Ravens edging them out just enough off of just a goofy mistake by Colin. Don't hate me. That's just old AFC South blood running over rivalry blood. So don't add me, Colin. Um, but um, but yeah, um, yeah. Because to this day, Colin, you're supposed to have a banner as Super Bowl champion. That's all I'm gonna say. You're supposed to have at least one. You were that close. Period. Anyway, I think I just took a shot. I'm gonna shut up now. I say it's gonna be Ravens and Ravens versus Arizona, and that's my picks right now. Yeah.
Smash is going off in chat. He's calling Jags and Bolts in the AFC Championship game. I have to go back and look because I could totally be wrong. I too may have taken the Chiefs, as anybody with half a brain would have. But I could have swore that I said that Nipples and the Ravens, and I still feel very, very confident with that. And in the NFC, that's really been the one that's changed the most for me because Dwayne isn't as dominant as he has been. D-Money has shown that he can lose. You can't take away anything from Trey and the Lions. So I don't know that my ideas have changed, but the NFC has added in some fogginess. Now we're going to go to our last question here. And for that, I'm going to take this off the screen and put back the CFM. When you're not allowed to crap on yourself, so you just take it and give your real thoughts. But his question was, what sub 500 team could make a realistic run and win an OMFL Bowl? Not even necessarily this year, but we'll look at the sub 500 teams. I'll run through the list real quick, and I'll just kind of open it up to whoever thinks a team that could go. Colts at 5-5, Vikings at 4-4, Patriots at 4-6, Broncos at 4-5, Saints 4-5. Bucks 3-5, Washington football team 3-5, Browns 4-6, Bears 3-6, Bills 2-7, 49ers at 2-6, Jets at 3-6, Chiefs at 2-7, Rams at 1-8, Packers at 1-9, Texans at 1-8, and our Eagles at 0-9. Any of those teams do you think could make a realistic run this year and win an OMFL Bowl? Let's go to Trey.
I think it's a little too soon to rule out the Buccaneers. I know that Pence has figured things out with what he wants to do, with what he wants. I think he got the team in a different style than what he usually plays. I think he's adjusting his game plan for the new CFM, and I think a lot of people are going to get shocked about how high-powered offense that thing's going to get.
Brady, what are your thoughts? Any of these teams stick out as a team that has a realistic chance to turn things around?
It would honestly be Penguins in Tampa Bay, and I don't know what it is about my voice when it comes to addressing Penguins, because last cycle, if you guys remember, Penguins was crapping the bed pretty bad, and I said some pretty direct things on OMFL News, and needless to say, he went on a tear. So, Penguins, if you're hearing this, now that you're away from us in the AFC, it's time to wake up and have a little fun. Kick some ass, take some names, and make some people sweat a little bit. Just saying. No shots being taken at you, Nate, Trey. Love you guys. Don't at me. Yeah, Penguins. It's time to wake up. And D-Money, bro, quit playing with them. Come on back. They won't boot you. I promise.
I mean, we might. I ain't gonna lie. We might.
Please give me the real D-Money. Please, I'm begging for it.
When you're going last, because I got something to say, I'm going to run through a couple teams that I think have a realistic chance and the reasons why I think it may not happen, and I'll try to keep it super brief. Yes, I do think that the Colts in a brand new, wide open the AFC, the way it's set up right now, Wynn could get to an OMFL Bowl if he could get out of his own head
Oh my
and play the
God.
way he did with Matty Ice in the end of that game. If he got back to his
No.
roots on defense, the new sliders are going to open up some pass rush for him. It's going to allow him to play a little bit more of his normal defense. And if he can just kind of pump the brakes and stop turning the ball over, he'd be fine. Minnesota Vikings and Maniac 100% can make a run. This matters too much to Maniac. I don't know why. I say this out of love to you, Maniac. I do love you to death. I equally want to strangle you 90% of the time. And the Maniac that's been around for the last 2 weeks is the Maniac I don't like at all. I like the fun, plugged in, energetic, content building. I like that Maniac. This thing right now I don't like. But if Maniac could stop, like, I think Maniac, it matters too much to him. Like, he wants to prove his worth by winning a championship, and that is so stupid hard here. I've been playing in this league longer than anyone because I created it, and I have won, and it came in the last season of, like, Madden 12 when most people were unplugged during the summertime, and I won one. It is stupid freaking hard to win a championship in this league with some of the players that we have here. If Maniac would just stop caring so much about winning a championship and bragging about his Deuce championships and all of his whatever, and just play Maniac football, Maniac could easily turn this ship around. Patriots are going to get it figured out. Broncos are going to get it figured out. Buccaneers, we've already talked about them. There's no reason to. You guys have hit all the nails on the head with the Buccaneers. Easily could turn it around. Big Hurt. He played, whether a real fake, unplugged, not trying hard, whatever it was, he played D-Money, took him to the limit, and beat him in Arizona to make it to the NFC Championship. Big Hurt can turn things around. Now, this team needs a quarterback. This team needs an offensive line. Like, they have some definite weak areas on this side of the ball, but he can turn things around. Massimo, we've already talked about. This dude scored 316 points. He also allowed almost the same amount of points on defense. If he could just play half asleep football, like right now, his defense isn't even showing up. If he could just show up and sleep through the game, he would start to win ball. The Bears and Smash. I know Smash owned the NFC North, but if Smash could just focus, build that rookie quarterback, get back to what makes Smash just unbelievably hard to beat, which is efficient, deep throwing quarterback play, running back after running back after running back, and defense that just swarms you, which he can't get right now because none of us can. He is going to be able to win some football games. We've seen Jets be able to turn it around, but I don't know how realistic this one is. But the Chiefs, and the reason I say we have to talk about him is because of this roster, guys. This roster is unbelievable. Now, Shocks has to show something, and he hasn't. Let's just call a spade a spade. He has never really pushed for a playoff spot here, but he's got the roster. He's in the AFC where things are more open, so I think he has an opportunity there. The rest of these teams, I think, always could have an opportunity, but the moons would have to align for it to happen. All right, now that he's finished puking on himself, he's had time to clean it up and get changed. Win, close us out.
All right, first off, I got to ask you before I give you some of my thoughts. What's in that water bottle you keep sipping on? Because it's got to be some vodka.
You don't
Got to
worry
be
about
some
it,
vodka
sir.
in there. Okay. I'm just saying, to lead off with Colts is absolutely ludicrous. I could see Maniac if he could get his head on straight. I could see Maniac coming back as somebody who apparently has had some playoff success. Maybe not top tier playoff success, but playoff success. I could see him coming back. His problem, NFC.
Yeah.
I could see the Broncos. I'm not familiar with the new owner, but it seems like he's well liked. I don't know if that means he's solid stick skills guy, but in an AFC that's a little weaker of a division. You've got a team that's near 500, floating around 500 in a division that's winnable with the Chiefs on a down note. That's not a bad gig to maybe play on. He's got some teams he's got to jump over. The Buccaneers have already been talked about.
He's
Hey,
a
you know what?
shooting star. Real quick before you move on, the Broncos are a shooting star. He'll come out of nowhere and make an OMFL bowl like he did in Madden 21, and then he'll go back to sub 500 football.
Wow, that's fair. That's fair. Well, maybe this is his time to shine. I'll tell you what. I'll throw, since you were delusional about the Colts. I'll be delusional a little bit, and I'll say the Saints have an excellent shot because you're in a weak AFC South. If you can get a wild card, you can sneak in there and do some damage. You've got a solid defense at all levels. They're a little bit older in spots, but you got a solid defense at all three levels. If these sliders can help Cameron Jordan actually be Cameron Jordan, that'll be a huge boon for you, and help out those linebackers that are still, minus Demario Davis, still kind of figuring out their way a little bit. And also you have a quarterback in Deion McCarthy who is top tier as far as overall base, and you've got the weapons in Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara to potentially make a run. You've just got to get through, again, you've got to get over the demon of the fail clowns. You've got to beat the fail clowns. The football team is another team I'd pick up on just because I think Big Hurt needed a change of scenery. I think he was looking for something different, and I think that football team, it's missing a quarterback, but in a division, he's still got a lot of tough opponents. He's got Pepper, he's got Dwayne, but he's got the stick skills, I believe, to maybe make a run for it. And the last guy I'll bring up is Smash. He and I have talked ad nauseum in DMs and stuff and discussed some things. I think if he can get his defense, because if you look at his numbers, he's only allowed 213 points. He's only scored 185. If he can get an offense, kind of my personal mantra is, if I score 20 points before you, you're not winning. I think if he could get in that mindset of just get to 20 before your opponent does, I think the Bears could make maybe a surprise run. Is it a long shot? The reset or the restart or whatever we're calling it, the refresh. We have Khalil Mack coming back, so there is that. And Nate just sent me a signal to say that for me to be quiet now with the ending of the stream. So
no, I hit the wrong stupid button. I knew it
fine.
the second I hit
saw
the
it pop
stupid
up. I'm
thing.
like, okay, Nate, that's the red light.
Wrap it up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Brady. Did we talk? No, I saved one for last. That's right. Okay, less than a minute. We went an hour and a half tonight, folks. This is what happens when we have so many people on the show. You got to hear everybody talking. Nate always talks too long. Let's put a bow on the show with what we've learned today. You got to go less than a minute. You can take your full minute if you want to. We're going to go Brady, Win, and then Trey, and then I'm going to bring us home. What did you learn today, Brady?
That some of you guys are crazy and that you guys drink before you get on the show, especially if you selected me to win a Super Bowl. But I mean, I appreciate the confidence that you have in me, but until I can get past the first round or win a division or get a bye, man, there's way too much talent in the AFC that I have to get past to have a shot. So that's my take.
Win, what did we learn today?
Well, Brady and I are in agreement on a few things here. Number one, I think you all drink before the show. Number two, I think we're all a little delusional if we think the Colts are going to win any more than 5 games. I told you guys I'm going to win 4 Madden games this cycle. I've done my 4. I'm out. I'm peacing out. I can't play defense. I can't play offense. But other than that, I'm having a wonderful time. I'm making a new draft or trade calculator for next season. And other than that, what have I learned tonight? I've learned that this OMFL is stacked to the gills, and I was a complete idiot to rejoin and think I was going to win more than 5 games. There.
Well, you've hit your 5 games, so you're good. Trey, what did we learn tonight?
I learned I'm still getting slept on in the tops of the NFC.
That's totally fair.
It feels like the talk is still it's D Wayne or D Money. I guess I gotta show the true north what's up.
To be fair, there's some history there, and so to be fair, that's usually what happens. You got to put your money where the house usually wins. I learned that fraudulent slips are still pretty hilarious, even to my little middle school brain. I also learned that Brady made a call for Mr. Cam Jordan, and that's all he did. He talked about how he'd love to have him and that the price was okay, and then never actually put an offer on the table, Mr. Brady. And so I learned that I'm a little salty about talking about my player, but making me do work and not even putting an offer on the table or saying, no, I'm not interested. I also learned that I'm ready to get going in the new CFM. And I know what's going to happen is we're going to be about 3 days into it, and the wolves are going to come out, and I'm going to have to do what I always do, rant and rave in the boardroom while people talk about how bad the sliders are, blah, blah, blah. And then it blows over, and 8 weeks into it, we kind of all just shut our mouths and play with what we've got, or we make more changes. And that's usually my job. So I learned that there's a lot of really fun things coming, and I can't wait to go get in them. The draft scout draft has went pretty good, and I think we're going to wrap it up tomorrow. So a lot of really fun things coming. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Brady, for being on the world's longest OMFL hot seat. Thank you, Win, for doing what Win does and just, killing us all with his pessimism. And Trey, always being slept on. And that should motivate you. It should push you. Now you gotta go.
Oh, it has me driven through the wall.
All wrong. Maybe stop hitting yourself with the helmet. Maybe maybe you should stop.
That was 8 years ago. I'm good.
And I don't know if we're good. Maybe we should have that looked at.
Good is a strong word.
Guys, have a great rest of your week. Be kind to somebody. Love people this week. Be kind to each other. We'll be back this week. I'm going to stream, host a game. Just got to find one that fits my schedule. Oh, maybe not, because we won't have a lot of games this week. Okay, this weekend maybe I can stream, host a game. Next week we'll bring it back. Join us every Sunday, Press Pass Live. Every time we stream a game or I stream a game, I'm here. Come hang out with the chat. Think about subscribing. Give us a like. Come hang out. If you're an adult, you like to play video games, there's no better place to do that than right here at Grown Folks. Check us out, grownfolksoc.com. Until next time, peace and love. Bye.
Later.
Later on.
Smash that like and subscribe.